All right, everybody, let's get into this TNA Impact reaction show. I got to say, this was a tale of two shows. I thought the first like 45 minutes to an hour just had some really badass wrestling. I thought the first half of the show was awesome. Second half, I thought was good, but I just felt like it kind of like slowed down quite a bit and then what wasn't as great. Maybe they should have spread out the badass wrestling in it. Um, because like the second half featured a lot of like, comedy stuff and promo stuff and then I thought the main event was a very basic wrestling match. It was just kind of what you're going to get from Nick Nemeth versus Brian Myers. Not to say that that match was bad, but it was, pandering and it was like outside interference and Joe Hendry on commentary, lots of distractions, Alicia Edwards getting involved, referee kicking people, the whole, like every main event that they've had in this company in the last couple of years. But I thought that they did a great job. I thought this was a much better episode than anything that they did in Detroit. I thought, aside from the Speedball versus Moose match, I didn't think that a lot of great stuff happened in the Detroit TV tapings. So episode 1 of the Fayetteville tapings has surpassed the Detroit one. Now, Detroit did feature 2 pretty gruesome injuries. So, that sucks. Like that's pretty like not very regular thing to happen. So, but the show opens up with Mike Santana defeating Casey Navarro of First Class. And this match was so good. This was like Casey Navarro's probably coming out party here. And you're going to be like, what do you say that, Mike? He got his ass kicked. He got his ass kicked in beautiful fashion. Like this wasn't a squash match by any means, but this is like a glorified, like a showcase match for Santana. But KC made Santana look so fucking good with the way he was selling and the way Santana was throwing him around. He made Santana look like a monster. And of course, Santana was letting this guy get some stuff in and like letting him kick out of some stuff. He made KC look great too. But I thought KC did such a good job of being like a little shithead. And I mean that like endearingly. But with all the crazy bumps that he was taking, like this was probably a perfect pro wrestling match to get one guy over. And then at the same time, the other guy gets himself over by how hard he's getting the other guy over. If I'm TNA and I'm looking at this match, I'm like, we got to keep Casey around for a long time. And I know that they've signed him. It's like, we got to keep giving this guy opportunities because he knocked it out of the park. Now I'm on record saying that the better version of First Class is with Rich Swann because Rich Swann's a bigger star. And I'm hoping that he gets to come back soon. We haven't seen him in a long time. But Casey availed himself very well here. And I could see him getting a lot more opportunities because of this. I thought I can't say enough good things about this guy, Casey Navarro. I'm really happy for him. He's worked his ass off. He's had opportunities everywhere, and he was just never able to break through. And, Rich Swann goes down. He gets his opportunity on TV, and he is running with it, man. And got himself signed. And now he's in there with one of their top stars in the company, and he tore it down. He did. And it wasn't like a match where it was like this super competitive match. That's not what it was. So, and it shouldn't have been. Casey's a lower card guy, lower card act. But I think this was just a match to get Santana over, and both guys got over in my eyes. I think Santana got over with the audience, and Casey probably got over with the rest of the locker room with what he was able to do for Santana here. And Santana, as you could tell, was super appreciative of it on Twitter. Like, you don't really see that a whole lot, like, where he's like, this guy, worked his ass off. I was so happy to do this match. And I thought the match was great. Let's see. Back in the ring, Santana hits a seat in Navarro with a chop that elicits gas from the fans. Yeah. And Hannafin took great pleasure in this on commentary. Moments later, Navarro hits a big dive to Santana to the floor. Upon returning to the ring, Santana cuts off Navarro in the corner and blasts him with a stiff open-handed slap to the mouth. And Navarro brushes it off and begins to put together a sequence of offense since opening bell. Navarro hits a big 305 drop kick through the ropes to Santana. He follows that up with a top rope high spot for a close 2 count. Navarro goes for a middle rope splash, but is caught by Santana. Santana hits a modified Styles Clash and then a sit-out power bomb for a close 2 count. That was a big spot. That was fun. And then seconds later, Santana connects with a spin the block finisher. And he quickly follows up with the cover and got the pinfall victory. This really set the tone for the evening. I loved that. Good stuff. Fayetteville was hot for the match. They were loud for the match. I said this on the Mike and JD show last night, and I'll say it again here. I watched Dynamite this week, and I thought aesthetically, I was talking about the look and the feel of the show, that Impact was a better looking show than Dynamite. It really was. Because look, they and Lucha, you can chime in here since you were there. I don't know how much ticket sales they did, but it looked like they probably had around 1,000 people in there, and that building doesn't hold that many people. They had the whole hard cam side. I did see some pictures of the hard cam side, like not that many people were, like they didn't have anybody there in the bleachers, like they closed off the bleachers. But opposite hard cam on the, we're on the view of the camera, it looked like it was pretty full. Now up in the upper right corner during some matches, it looked kind of empty. Now this was the first night of tapings. I think they actually sold more tickets on the second night, but the place looked pretty full, and aesthetically it looked great. Lucha saying wouldn't go higher than 1,500. Yeah, probably less than 15, probably in between 1,000 and 1,500. Probably closer to 15 on Saturday night is what I'm hearing. But that's really good for TNA. Very good. And they did it in a venue that holds right around that much. Like you could probably only get like 2,500 people in there. So they did a good job picking the arena. Lucha says bleachers were full on the hard cam. So in the view of the hard cam side, but the hard cam bleachers, so behind the hard cam, they weren't even open. So they had closed those off. So, but yeah, great crowd in Fayetteville, North Carolina. My fellow North Carolinians. I will be moving to North Carolina soon, so I'm glad you guys like your pro wrestling still. Mid-Atlantic, Jim Crockett Promotions, Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. I will be in the area coming up in July, ready to take over the Carolinas. Be working out of Charlotte. I got a job there. I am retiring from the military and moving to North Carolina, taking my family to North Carolina. And I'm glad to see that pro wrestling is alive and well there, representing. NC Hoes represent, yes sir. Excited about that. But the show looked great. I thought the show looked great. Okay, Jim Miller is backstage with Ryan Nemeth and the reigning TNA World Champion Nick Nemeth for a brief interview. She brings up Ryan's bout with Hendry and Nick's against Brian Myers. Nick says he's going to do what he does best, steal the show. He didn't. Ryan tells Nick he's going to have Nick's back if the system try anything, and Ryan then talks about his own business at hand, noting the video of Hendry that shared has been ruining his life. I think this Ryan is going to be a good heel for the company as long as he doesn't wrestle. I think he needs to go be a manager. I think I pitched it. I'm pretty sure I pitched this last week. Ryan Nemeth managing Jake Something and Hammerstone. I think they could use a manager, and I think he would like doing the full Hollywood hunk gimmick. I think that would work because the fans really like getting to him. He's not as good as Bobby the Brain Heenan, but he's kind of playing that Bobby the Brain Heenan role. And you got to remember, Bobby the Brain Heenan was a wrestler before he became a manager, and that's why he was so good at managing. Because the old saying goes is he managed like a wrestler and he wrestled like a manager. I think that Nemeth could actually kind of do something similar to that. Obviously not as good, not to the scale, but I think he could be something in the company as a manager. I think that they should give him a shot. He's not a good wrestler. He just isn't. But he can take bumps, and I think people like watching him get hit in the face because he's got a very punchable face, this guy, which is a good thing to have if you're a pro wrestling heel. Like a punchable face is important. And then Hammerstone, Jake Something, and Trent Seven attacked the Hardys. Yeah. Show returned from the break, and footage is shown of the chilling conclusion of last week's show, which saw Trent Seven viciously attack Speedball. And after Speedball lost the X Division title to Moose, after the footage wraps up, Hardys and Ace Austin are shown talking to Seven about his act. That's not exactly what happened. They were just talking to talk about Turning Point coming up, and then Seven interrupted them. And then making it clear. And then, so as the talk continues, then Seven's like, why are you guys getting interview time? I should be getting it. This whole thing was not, the way they set it up was kind of stupid, but they're just trying to set up a match at Turning Point. Or no, they're setting up a match for next week, I think. But anyway, Seven gets into Ace Austin, and then Hammerstone and Jake Something into the picture. And then they attack all three. Morella hits the scene with security and demands the heel trio leave. Calls for doctors to come check on the attack trio. And then I think later they announced that match is happening next week. And then the Rascals defeated Alan Angels and Jake Christ. Now, I talked about this earlier on the Patreon version. I kind of like this duo of Alan Angels and Jake Christ. Now, I had openly speculated weeks ago that Alan Angels might not be coming back. We just hadn't seen the guy in a long time. And I think that's a direct result of TNA using a lot of NXT talent and not having enough spots on the card. And so now, since there was no NXT talent on this card, they brought back Alan Angels and Jake Christ, which I think is a good thing because, they're TNA guys. Now, Jake hasn't been around in a long time. I don't think he's actually signed here, but Alan Angels, I believe, was signed. I think he signed a deal here, and they just quit booking him for some reason. Well, I think because they were using NXT people to fill up the card. So, looks like this is a legit tag team. They had matching gear, and Alan Angels said, "New tag team on the scene. He's soliciting tag team names, and so I like these guys as a tag team. Alan Angels has got some personality, and he's a decent wrestler, and then Jake Christ is a really good wrestler." I think this team could work. And so they were trying him out here against the Rascals, and I thought this match was great. So 2 great matches to start the show off. I thought it was really good. Angel's a good heel, and Jake Christ is a really good wrestler. So I'm excited to see what this team does if they keep him around. As far as I'm concerned, it's a home run putting these 2 guys together. Angels tags in and takes over. He hits Miguel with a low blow that allows him to shift the offensive momentum to his team's favor. He taunts the crowd and then muscles Miguel up for a fisherman suplex for a 2 count. Fans chant, "Angels suck, Angels sucks." Moments later, the Rascals pick up the win. I don't remember how they won, but they did. Following the bout, a quick backstage segment is shown with Spitfire duo Jody Threat and Danny Luna. Yeah. So again, like this first hour was filled with really good. Lucha Doncic says, "I'm calling Kristen Angel's flight risk, and nobody will ever get me to change that thanks to you." So they solicited tag team names, and so I went to ChatGPT and said, "Create a tag team name for Alan Angels and Jake Christ," and it came up with flight risk. Just a terrible name. Just not a good name. But Lucha likes it. So, but I thought that was pretty funny. And I screenshotted the actual Chat GPT thing, and then I sent it to him, and he probably got a kick out of that. I don't think that's going to be the name. Bert and Dattila wanted to say Christ Angels. No, please don't do that. Please don't. I think, Sean Ross Sapp said Angels of Christ. I'm just like, don't do that either. They could be, like the Hellraisers or something like that. I don't know, but don't do that. But Lucha says matching gear were Panthers colors. Oh, no wonder they lost. All right. I was a little blow. My bad. All right. Josh Alexander, Judas Icarus, and Travis Williams. Poor Jade. I don't know how long she's going to be the announcer here. She kept calling them the Northern Armory. It's like, you got to say Northern. Come on now. We got to, I don't know if she's got a speech impediment, but it's Northern, not Northern Armory. But I was like cringing when she said it. I was like, oh, poor Jade. Oh, man. I don't know if she's going to stick around when Josh Alexander leaves. I don't know if she'll have that job anymore. I think she's pretty good, but man, Northern, come on. Defeated Steve Macklin, Eric Young, and Jonathan Gresham in what I call the match of the night. These Sinner and Saint kids are really good. And then of course, Macklin, Young, Gresham, and Alexander are really good, but I thought Icarus and Williams, like this is the first time since they've been here, we're like, oh wow, these guys are pretty fucking amazing. And I like that the Northern Armory got the victory here. There's too much going on for me to break it all down, but Young is accidentally bounced off the apron by Macklin, who turns around into a C4 spike for the pin. So at one point, Macklin was on top of Josh, and they were setting up Eric Young to come off the top rope with an elbow, but he could not get off of Josh. And And it caused friction between Eric Young and Steve Macklin. I wonder where this goes. And you had Macklin after the show was over driving in his truck, trying to get his head together. And so I don't know what's going on there, but we'll see what happens with that. But I did think this was the match of the night. If you only need one match to watch from this episode, this is the match to check out. Although I do think everybody should watch Santana versus Casey Navarro just to see like Casey Navarro work his ass off to make Mike Santana look like a big time main eventer. And he did. And I'm not taking anything away from Santana. I think Santana has those vibes. I think he's great, but I think Casey worked overtime to make Santana look good as humanly possible. But still great. Billy says Jade is still better than Pincer. Yes, he is. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. So good stuff. Io says, I like to see Josh let Sinner and Saint speak a bit too to get more seriousness. Yeah, me too. Lucha, Macklin had to go to a cookout and get his double burger tray with a double side of hush puppies and a large sweet tea in North Carolina. Oh, I guess that's what I got to look forward to when I move to North Carolina. Yeah, good stuff. When the show returns from break, Macklin is shown backstage, and he's still fired up from what went down. He comes across Santino and tells him that things between he and Alexander are far from over. Tells him to do something about it, or he will. He storms off and sees Young, who tells him he needs to start trusting him. Gresham shows up and makes it clear that as long as they have his back, he's got theirs. Young reiterates his point to Macklin, and he needs to start trusting him. So this is on you, not me. And Macklin storms off again. So good stuff. Okay, come back. In brief segment, Kazarian gloats about having the Call Your Shot trophy and beating Rhino in his hometown. So he's cutting a promo on Rhino. So they're doing a Rhino feud here for everybody keeping score. Rhino walks up and threatens to beat his ass. He actually bleeped out some cuss words. And then Kazarian goes, "Oh, you swore? Swearing?" I thought that was pretty funny. I think Kazarian's a good like mid-card shit heel. I like him. Inside the Impact Zone, Hollywood Hunk Ryan Nemeth makes his way and heads out to the ring for his match with Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry comes out. Crazy pop for Hendry. Guy's still over. We keep wondering when this thing's going to end. Not anytime soon. Hendry gets on the mic for a trademark promo. He brings up the Ryan Nemeth story video that premiered last week. He's nicknamed his brother The End. He ends up playing it a second time, and that was really funny. And Hendry says it sounds like fans want to see it. Yeah, they played it the second time. So Hendry says it sounds like fans want to see it one more time. He reacts to it one more time, and then he is ambushed and attacked from behind by Nemeth. The match, this starts the match off hot, but a few minutes later, Hendry takes over, finishes it with a standing ovation for an easy win. So yeah, nothing to the match, but looks like Hendry is still over, man. Still freaking over. Lucha says, we saw Joe Hendry legit 5 times on Friday, and he got the same loud pop every single time. That's when you know a guy is over. Joe Hendry remains over. No matter how much we try to say that he's not going to be over for very much longer, he is still over. All right, we'll come back. The lights go out, and Rosemary makes her way to the ring for the next match of the evening against Jada Stone from South Carolina. So she's going to be my South Carolina homie. She's from Charleston, I think is what they said. Or was it Columbia? I can't remember. Rosemary then proceeds to squash her. I like this Jada Stone. I've seen her in TNA before. When they go to this area of the country, they bring her in, and she always does really good. Now, this one, you really couldn't see much from her, but I think she's like somebody they need to continue bringing in. I think they need to get some paperwork on this kid. She's good. I think I would like to see her continue to come back. So we'll see what they got. And then Alicia Edwards and Masha Slamovich. So when the show returns, Hannafin and Ray will introduce digital exclusive segment that show the system celebrating backstage after last week's show. They now have special rings. So they're actually in the ring, recapper guy. They had a ring ceremony in front of the crowd. And then all of a sudden we hear, do you want to know something? Alicia Edwards over and over again saying it. And she comes out for a quick time killer promo. That's the truth. Says a bunch of nothing, essentially pointing out the system have rings now, gloating that Eddie Edwards is going to beat Nick Nemeth. Then that she doesn't like Masha Slamovich. starts talking trash about Slamovich. She's cut off by Masha, obviously. And Slamovich says if Edwards really thinks her win was a fluke, how about she face her next week in an ODQ match for the Knockouts Championship? And before Edwards says anything, out comes Sasha Steeles, and then Jordan Grace comes out. Yeah, this was total filler. Just so Grace is going to face Masha at Turning Point. Should Masha be able to defeat Alicia Edwards, which she does defeat Alicia Edwards. Spoiler. So just in case anybody had any doubt, she's not losing to Alicia Edwards. And then we go to the main event. I thought the main event was good, not great. Probably like the fourth best match on the show, but we did have some good matches on the show. Of course they had the outside shenanigans that kind of carried the match a little bit. Myers and Nemeth are very good pro wrestlers, and they had a good pro wrestling match, but there wasn't really anything to write home about in the match. Eddie Edwards interfered, and that brought out Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry's on commentary. Eddie Edwards interferes. He gets kicked out by the referee doing the whole get out of here thing. And then at one point, Alicia Edwards hits Nick Nemeth with a kendo stick, and then Joe Hendry. That causes Joe Hendry to pick up Alicia and carry her out of the venue. So the reason why Joe Hendry would come out is because Ryan Nemeth had been attacked backstage. And I think they're trying to allude to Joe Hendry being the one that attacked him. So there you go. But he had come out. He was on commentary. He ends up carrying Alicia Edwards out. And then Nick Nemeth takes over the match, hits the danger zone on Myers, gets the victory. After the match, Eddie Edwards gets involved and they start to jump him, and then Joe Hendry makes the save. He comes down with a kendo stick. He hits Myers. He hits Edwards. And then he looks like he's about to swing and hit Nemeth again. And then he does, and he pulls back. They do a face-off. And then the show goes to black, and then the Steve Macklin video ends there on the after the credits. Next week, we got Trash by Elegance versus Jody Threat, Frankie the Future Kazarian versus Rhino the Past, Masha Slamovich versus Alicia Edwards, and then 7, Hammerstone, Something versus the Hardys and Ace Austin. So that's what we got next week. Then that is going to continue the build to Turning Point, and then I think night 2 does the build towards Final Resolution in December, because they're going to be taking off for Thanksgiving again. So let's see. Billy says main event was like in 2019 SmackDown match, not my style. Yeah, I'm with you there. Io says Grace and Masha should main event Turning Point. I agree. I think that should main event Turning Point. But I do think Nemeth and Edwards are going to have a good match. I do think they will. Lucha says that trios match was also fun, not as fun as the TNA versus EY Grush Macklin though. Yeah, they have at least like every taping they have a trios match, and they're always pretty good. They always do a good job with those. But I think that's going to do it for us this week on Brace for Impact. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you drop down a comment, subscribe to the channel. And then if you're so inclined, head to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show and become a Patreon subscriber today, where you could have been live with Lucha, Billy, and Io. And you could get this stuff for right in your inbox, right in your Patreon app, or you can even use the RSS feed and put it in your favorite podcasting apps, whatever you want to do. You have that capability if you become a Patreon subscriber and get it right before everybody else does. And that's how we support the show. That's how we keep the lights on. That's how I'm able to continue to do this, is our Patreon community. So thanks everybody for being Patreon subscribers. I greatly appreciate you. But yeah, I got to get out of here. That's going to do it for me this week. And until next time, mahalo. Hold your breath, but it won't last. Who knows there's something in